So I wanted to show you how we can quickly create a book cover using Swiss grids or Swiss graphic design style. So let's get started with it. So we'll go to Photoshop. We'll use Photoshop for this exercise. And this is the final design that I made. It's a mock-up of this. So if you look at this design, you can basically see that I've used a grid, and the book cover that we have used is Psychology of Stupidity. There is a subheading, there is this title, there is a subheading, there are two authors to this book as well, and there is an imagery that I'm using in it. So let's close this and we'll start from the scratch, and I'll walk you through this process quickly. So when you're designing with Swiss, when you're using Swiss graphic design style, it's really, really important to use a grid. So this grid doesn't have a particular rule to it, right? It's up to the designer where you can customize your grids, columns and rows, and you can create it. But once you create it, once you create a grid, once you set a grid, you are not supposed to change the grid. So let's get started with this. So I'm choosing an A4 document here. I don't need the artboard. I unchecked it. I'm going to click create. So we have the document right here. So it's using a white default background here. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to turn on the rulers. So if you go down to the view, you can see rulers. And then if you turn it, you can see these edges, which actually shows the measurement of your document. It's really, really useful, where you can see your pixel, where the mouse is at on a horizontal and vertical level. So if you see this line here on top and here, it just estimates where your mouse is at that point. One other thing that you can do from here is that you can go here, you can click and drag guides that you can customize and keep to align stuff. So for instance, if you're doing a typographic system and you want to sort of do an axial arrangement of your typefaces, you can grab that line and use it. You can create a grid on your own. But when you're starting, or if this is the first time that you're starting to work with Swiss, what I would recommend is to create a grid layout using the guide layout. So if you go to view, you can see guides and go here and click on new guide layout. So click on this, and by default, you will see a grid. You can go here to the preset and you can change the column size. So one is 8 column, there is a 12 column grid, there is a 16 column, 24 column, things like that. You can also save a preset and load it whenever you want to use this. But what we will do is we will create a custom grid. So instead of columns 8, I'm going to do a 4 column grid. I'm also going to enable the row here, and I'm going to make this to 6. So this is the grid that I want to use for this. So when you're starting, I think this would be the most ideal grid to start. You can also change the the gutter space here. Now, this is not mandatory. Why I insist beginners to change this is that when you're using these grids, and if you want to align elements and a lot of content in that you want to put it into these grids, if there is a little more gap between these grids, it will be very helpful. It will not actually be very close to each other, right? So I'm just going to change this to 40 on both the grids. So you can see that there is a reasonable gap. You can increase this, if you want to make sure that the elements, and when there is too much of text, you can actually increase the gutter size. So if you want to sort of set up a margin, which is definitely a good idea, because if you want to set up a margin when you are thinking about the bleeds, when you're thinking about a physical, tangible book which gets cut off and all that, you can set that margin right here so that none of your important elements are going beyond that. You can set that up. So for this scenario, I'll just set it to 40 on all sides because that is our gutter spacing. So I'll set up a margin. This is helpful that you don't actually, break that safe area. And then I'm going to click OK. So as I told you, you can also save this. So if you click on Save Preset, it will be saved. You can maybe call it Swiss Design. I'm going to save it. So the next time you're opening it, that is going to show up right here, and you can quickly start your work. So click OK, and you have your grid. You can also do one thing. You can go to view and you can snap this to the guides. So when you're creating all these elements, you can select, if this is unchecked, you can check it so that when you drag and drop elements, it will snap to the guides. You can, if you want, you can turn off the other snappings. So it will not snap based on the layers. It will snap based on the guides alone. So I just turned off the layers, and then now it is going to snap only to the guide. So for instance, when snapping, what I meant is when you have a text, when you drag it, it will just snap to the edges quickly so that you don't have to do any sort of micro adjustments. It is very easy to snap it to the grid. So once we have the grid, now this is the most important rule, right? So if you go to this grid lines, you can edit them, but don't edit the grids. You're only supposed to change the elements based on this grid. You cannot for your convenience, you cannot change this grid when it will stop becoming a grid based design, right? So don't ever change the grids. The elements needs to be adapted to that, right? So we were working on a title. So what I will first I will do is I'll create the title. So I'm just going to use this side of it, and I'm going to write the side title, and it's snapped into this grid, right? It is sort of using two grids right now to write it. I can make it a little bigger if I want, right? So I'm going to sort of maybe use this space here, and I'll just bring the O down to the next line, and I'll take this up. So you can see that I'm using this grid to place my elements, right? So go in, I will go to the character arrangement. I'll maybe make it a little wide apart. So it snaps to the top, and so coming here, maybe I'll reduce the keep it snapped to this grid. So I have that in action. Now there is a subheading to it. So let's get that text and bring it here, right? So I think I'm going to use the same typeface here. I'm just going to drag and drop it, and explained by some of the smartest people in the world. So this is the text. I'm just going to reduce the size first. So let's bring it closer together. So I'm creating a different hierarchy for this, and I might actually use this grid for this arrangement, right? I'm going to use two lines here. So explained by some of the smartest people in the world. So I just arranged it like that. Now snap it to this grid. Okay. So I have that. Now, if I feel that this hierarchy is too much, that's the contrast, right? So the contrast between the heading and the subheading. I think it is a little closer, the contrast. I might have to reduce this a little bit. I need to create a little bit of drama between these two things. So I'm just going to bring it down a tad bit. So when I'm doing that, I might have to rearrange the context, the content here as well. So maybe if I can bring this, sorry, I'm just gonna bring off the smartest people in the world. I might be able to do this, and that sort of works, right? So I have that going. If I want, I can actually align it to the top, but that I think that will be too much of proximity, and I don't want that. Let it be like this. So another thing that we might want to do here is the the author's name here, right? So I'm just going to take this, I'm going to bring this maybe to another grid, and we will add the writer's name. So let's go in and take the writer's name. Just quickly go to, and I think there are two authors, so we'll go and take it. So I have this title. This is the person who wrote the book. Now I might actually need a little more hierarchy. I need a little more weightage for that. So I'm just gonna increase the font size here, space a little bit, and I will use this grid itself. Let's keep it right here. Okay, so I have that in place. Right now. Okay, this is something that sort of works, right? Maybe you can use the same technique to add more content into it as well. So let's say if I want to mention something like, you know, New York's bestseller, something like that, I can use the same grid structure, right? So just reduce this, put it there. I will align this to this size. So this is using an 18 pixel, and we'll change this also to 18 pixels, so two values. Okay, so we have this right now. The text is almost figured out, right? We didn't manipulate the grid. The grid remains the same. That's the most important thing. So we need an image to actually support this story. So I've already created an image. So when I was thinking of an image, I was thinking of something which quickly shows stupidity, right? An image which is stupid, which doesn't make any sense. So what I did was I actually went to this AI tool called Crea, and I went to the image generation platform and I created a set of images. So what I finally made was an image like this, which actually doesn't make any sense, right? That spoon's handle is not enough to actually use that efficiently. So I wanted to just simply illustrate stupidity with this. So I'm going to download this image. We are not going to talk about the prompt and all that in this particular lesson. But I just did some style prompts. I showed some of the product examples to the AI tool. So it generated my concept in that visual style. So what we will do is I'm just going to go to place embedded, and we will take the image that we just downloaded. I think it is, and we have this image. Let's import that into the graphic that we have. So now we can again try and arrange this image based on this grid, and that if we can able to do that, that adds value to your design language, the whole design language. So I'm just going to look at this grid, and I'm going to place the elements where I want it, right? So it is using this particular, so if I just reduce it a little bit, my image sort of sticks in this grid, right? It starts from here and almost ends there, and we can see the cup that is being used. So this is where I'm going to place the content of the image. But about the rest of it, I might have to use a color that sort of looks similar to this. So I'm going to go to layers, and I'll drag this all the way to the bottom so we can see how the other elements are working with this. And I will take a eyedropper tool. I'm going to take a color shade from here, and I will go to the background and I will apply that shade into this. All right. So the background has a color which is sort of similar to this, but not entirely similar. So this patch is very visible right now. So what I'm going to do is I will select the AI generated image. I'll click on remove the background, and it will remove the background. It will just take the background away, and it will look seamless there, right? So now we have all of this, and I can just quickly go and maybe turn off the guides so we can see how this is looking at this point, and it sort of works, right? Now, again, if you go to view and turn on your guides, you will get this back again. And if something is not working, right, you can always keep changing this based on the grid that you have set. So maybe I can actually move this here, and then I can bring this down, right? So that is another way that I can, or I can separate this into a completely different grid. But I think that's too much. So I'm just going to align this to this grid. So we have the major heading, which is, sorry, right here. Then we have a supporting text. We have two other supporting text, which actually comes in here. And an image which uses the same grid flow, right? So when somebody sees this without the grids, right, it gives a sense of alignment. It gives a sense of discipline. That is what Swiss design is supposed to do, right? It creates that vibe to people. So let's go a little more, and see, we will turn back the grid on. So we don't need the grid, we actually need the guide. So I'm just going to go back and turn off the grid. We can sort of break this. Maybe every text is actually coming in that line. So we can sort of break this into something, a structure which follows the same way so that it balances. We can actually bring in more shapes as well. So for instance, let's say keep it somewhere here for the time being. I'm going to take an ellipse and I'm going to create a circle right here, snapping into those grids, right? And I can change the color to anything that I want. Let's say I'll change the fill color to something little like that. So I created, I don't want the stroke also. So there is a circle which sort of fits into the whole thing. I can take this element now and I will just drag it and drop it into this particular circle. So now the text doesn't have to align to the grid because the circle is already aligning to the grid. So I just need to place it inside the circle, right? So I've done that maybe here. So now you can add anything. You can add, I just wanted to demonstrate that other elements also that you're adding into this grid. And if you're keeping that grid in mind, you can create some really neat and clean designs, right? So this particular design style, Swiss design style, is called International Graphic Design Style. Because that's the most popular and most easiest way to convey messages very clearly to the audience, right? That's one of the reasons it's super popular as well. So I would want you to try this and let me know what you think. So I'll see you soon. Bye bye.